Glad to be here. First off, thanks. Just super stoked to be here with just such a great audience today and a great event. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So I think it's one of the first times we've actually talked with Home Depot at one of our events. Can we talk, I outlined this different strategy of acquiring users. Can we talk a little bit about what Home Depot's strategy is? I talked about companies that are actually trying to reach beyond mobile. Can you talk about Facebook versus Google or other sources of traffic for you?
Yeah, sure. So let me first start off with just a quick soundbite, 30 seconds on Home Depot. So Home Depot, largest home improvement retailer in the world, 2,200 stores located across the US, Canada, and Mexico. We have about 365,000 associates. I mean, think about that in the size. It's like a city of St. Louis. We have our average store is about 105,000 square feet under roof and about 35,000 square feet outside. We have about 35,000 products in the average store, and we have about 1 million online. And then the total company revenue is a little north of 83 billion, and we do right at 4 billion online. And last year, as you mentioned, grew by over $1 billion a year just in digital at a 36% growth rate. So just
and you said something like you have a store that's two miles or less from a significant percentage of the population, right?
5 miles or less
5 miles,
from a large percentage of the U.S. population. So we're highly, kind of spread out, throughout to connect with our customers, everywhere.
So can we go back to that question in terms
of the traffic?
Yeah.
So from a traffic perspective, I think strategically, our focus is really to be anywhere and everywhere that customers are. We're not necessarily, specific looking at, different, channels to focus on. We're really just trying to figure out where are our customers at and how do we connect with them. So there are really 4 makeups of what kind of represents the lion's share of our traffic. 1 is basically direct traffic. 2 is organic, 3 is paid search, and 4 is email. So when you think about that, that really represents the lion's share. Now, in your question as it relates to Google, versus Facebook, what I'd say is we see it Google and Facebook. However, those platforms are really just emerging. They really represent a fairly small percentage of traffic in terms of the Facebooks, the Pinterest, et cetera, today. But the great news is as clearly as you see, the time spent in those platforms is huge, represents a great opportunity for us. And something that we've done a lot of testing with, the Facebooks and the Pinterest as well of the worlds, and seeing some greater results. I think clearly it's something that we'll have to continue to figure out.
Okay, you talked about SEO Armageddon, right? So Google made a change
Yeah.
where they were punished a lot of sites that weren't responsive. Can you talk a little bit about what you did? Because you said that that's actually helped pretty significantly, something like driving 50% more MAUs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So the thing that happened on the SEO side was Google has been indicating for a long time that they're going to make some changes to their algorithm, referred to in industry as MobileGeddon. And they've been indicating this for a long time around the need for retailers, the need for all kind of digital sites to optimize for a mobile experience. And so they've been indicating that. They recently have rolled out that change. And so we have spent a lot of time prepping. When you look at the percentage of traffic, from our site represented on mobile is big and growing very rapidly, as it is with everyone. And so we've been doing a lot of prep for that. What we did was we did some testing pre and post MobileGeddon, and we did kind of a multi-thousand keyword group assessment to look at that. And effectively, what we found kind of pre and post MobileGeddon is that we increased our market share in that group of keywords by about 1%, and we saw a 6% increase or lift in terms of mobile entries, from that change, which is really great. Now, what I would say is there's a lot that we did, and maybe talk, just a few things that we did in order to do that.
Yeah, I want to get to the texting part too, right?
Okay.
Because that was driving a lot of the digital as well. But go
yeah,
ahead.
so on the app side. So on the mobile website though, for kind of MobileGeddon, what we did was there's kind of 4 things. One is, SEO is, kind of first and foremost thought about. We have a great team. Sean Koenig leads that team. Huge shout out to him. Really a lot of great partnerships with the business in terms of everybody thinking about SEO. That's 1. Number 2 is adhering to Google's guidelines. Google provides some guidelines and directions about being best in class and what you need to do mobile optimization. So we've done that. And then 3 is what I would say is around crawling. How do we basically make it easy for Google to search and crawl our mobile web experience and provide a lot of optimizations in that. And then lastly, what I would say is what we did is we do schema.org, or kind of the rich snippets across our desktop and mobile website. And what that does is it effectively gives structured information to the Google bots to make it very easy for them to crawl and
these are these are generally known as best practices, right? So having a site that's indexable. Do you guys have any secret sauce that you can share in terms of areas where you push the edge?
Yeah, so that schema.org or that rich snippets is something that actually, if you look at like a Search Metrics put out a report on that that looks at the broader industry, and what they show is just actually a few percent of sites globally actually implement that. So that's something that where if you look at their benchmarks, they show that the sites that basically do that make it easier for the Google bots, they rank higher, they got better results.
Why is that so infrequently used, do you think? Is there resources that you have to use?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be built, right? So you have to spend, technical capacity to go implement that. And what I would say is, is SEO seen as a core competency, or is it just something you got to do or you deal with when it's not going well? For us, it's something that we strategically invest in. And then, touch on the mobile app side, right? So, that you're talking about for mobile messaging. So, we introduced something within our app called the Message Center. And really what we found is a couple of things. One is, customers really don't like to be interrupted with push notifications. It just, the general feedback that we get is that it's somewhat, disruptive. One. Number two is the style of content that you can put inside that is effectively text, so not super rich. And what we're looking at is really how do we create an environment that still allows us to connect with our customers and do that in a way that's non-disruptive and also much richer in terms of the formats of what we can provide. And so that's where we're getting to this driving actives as well, is that most of our customers engage in our app in really an episodic manner, meaning like when they're working on something with their home, they will pull up the app, they'll use it, but it's not something that somebody wakes up in the morning and goes, hey, look, let me just pop open the Home Depot app. I wish they would, but they just don't, right? And so what we saw was, we did some tests, and I'll give you some results. So what we saw was there are three things that we look at that mobile messaging for. One is what I would call kind of feature marketing. That really is, we introduce a lot of new great features into the app, but like how do we get more customers to use those great features and raise the awareness? Two is what you referred to, Matt, in the moment marketing. So like how do we connect with customers in that moment and leverage that as a capability? And then third, is basically what I call more geo-targeting. And how do we get much more precise targeting around creating some relevancy for customers? So let me talk about two results.
Before the results, can you just talk about the moments and how do you actually serve that? And you talked about texting. Is there other ways to respond? Is it responsive or is it preempting on the moment?
So basically, what we do is we push out a message for that from what we deem as kind of a moment. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Might be great. So for Father's Day.
Yeah.
Highly relevant for the Home Depot. Go Fathers. So think about all the folks out there that did not necessarily think were thoughtful. Maybe they got too busy to get their great father a present for Father's Day. So what we did was we actually pushed out a message saying, hey, you can buy an e-gift card right here in the app. Super quick, super simple. And what we saw was a 61% lift in e-gift card purchases by leveraging that messaging capability, which is
right.
Great.
And again, so it's not notifications hitting the front of your phone. It's messages that are notifications sitting in your app.
That is correct.
Right? So how does that work? Is it's the fathers that are doing the Home Depot? So were the fathers buying gifts for other people, or were
fathers buying gifts for fathers?
Okay.
And there's a lot. There's a lot of mothers that use the app for redecorating or shopping for their house. And
sure.
Clearly when you look at paint colors and decor items and a lot of that selection, more kind of predominantly driven typically by the mother of the house. So there's that. And then what I would say on the feature marketing side, which might be interesting because you see a lot of really great capabilities that are put out there in mobile apps today, but the feature usage, when you start to dig into that, is actually not that high because customers don't always necessarily wake up and think like, well, let me check out the app to see what new features. And some customers have auto updates on, so they don't necessarily like read your release notes or stuff like that. And so what we did is we have store maps, and so we mapped all 2,000 of our stores. We have a 3D map of the store that has the bay and aisle location. You can zoom, tilt pan, get all different perspectives. Some really, really cool stuff. And we launched this great feature. It was a decent investment by us, in our business. And we really are looking to drive up the usage rate because we actually think that could be incredibly helpful, to our customers. And so what we did was we pushed a message into that message center, and what we saw was a 96% increase in that feature usage that week. And then clearly there was a residual effect as well that tailed off. But what we did was we raised feature awareness and continued to drive the penetration up by north of 100 basis points of customers that are now using that feature, which is great because we think that's super valuable in aiding in the shopping experience between kind of digital and stores, and how do you mix that together to create an end-to-end experience that's ultimately great for customers.
So let's talk about the results. I think, or did you cover those mostly, right? Because we switched back to the features. Now I know you're a public company, so you warned me that you can't go into the actual results. But you talked about something like a 50% increase in active users. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So what we saw is on
the digital side, which is just a small portion of your business.
For our apps, yeah. So we saw a significant lift in our apps in terms of the monthly actives that we are driving. There's really that message center that makes up one, and then something that's also pretty new is, and I'm sure there's probably a limited percentage of people doing this today, but deep linking with apps. So with what Google's been doing in terms of Android, in terms of deep linking as well, another feature that I'd say capability that's been rolled out that we've been very early on in figuring out and actually partnering closely with Google to really actually understand that. I think they're still kind of working through that piece as well, but we've seen that be another component. So yeah,
can you talk about that again? Because we have to find this fine balance with this audience, because you got a lot of folks who know what deep linking is and others that don't. But essentially, it's the ability to actually link to a specific offer to an app, right, without having to actually download the app and have them restart again to find that link, right? So just straight through to the offer instead of having to.
Well, it goes into the app. So effectively what it does is that if you're in a mobile web experience, basically when you hit that link, if you have the app installed as well, effectively the browser will prompt you and say, hey, do you want to use this in app or do you want to stay in web? And so that's really what we've done, which is kind of marry those experiences.
Can you talk together. A little bit about the results of the deep linking yet, or is it?
Yeah, so I mean, look, we just started rolling it out. There's still the kind of the crawl going in terms of that mobile app. But what I would say is, back to seeing a significant lift in terms of raise in terms of customers going into the app that have that downloaded. What I would also say is that if you look at conversion rates of kind of mobile web versus app, I think probably the broader audience and most companies would say that their app conversion rate is typically a lot higher than what they would see in web. So you're potentially going to get that lift as well by moving that customer into a richer experience if they have that app installed. So really great kind of results early on and super bullish about that.
Right, so I want to get into some of the challenges that you may foresee coming forward, right? Because as I mentioned, you guys have tripled in value. A big company, right? At 50 billion, tripled to 150 billion in just 3.5 years, right? Under your watch, and you preceded that. Can you talk? I mean, so that's amazing, right? So that should be celebrated. But after that lift is over, like what happens now? What are the challenges that you're going to see after that initial digital lift? Is it kind of easy going for another year or two?
No, I wish it was.
You've got a lot of capacity to keep going.
So we still have a lot of momentum, and still think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. What I'd say is we've done a lot of really cool stuff in the mobile space. When you look at what I said, we in our within mobile we have bay and aisle information. We have an in-store experience in our app. So all of our stores are geofenced, and when you break that geofence, if you're using the mobile app, basically we switch context of the app. We have chat inside the app. We have, store maps. We have this mobile message center. What I'd say is about 4 years ago, we went very aggressive into mobile, right? When mobile actually wasn't a huge percentage of the traffic. But what I'd say is knowing that, that's where customers are going. And frankly, not an industry that I think a lot necessarily think, Home Depot, home improvement, like I'm not sure, how much digital relevancy is there. It's huge, and not only huge from an online perspective, but also to the store perspective. That's big. In terms of challenges, though, a lot of the challenges that I think, frankly, we all share. One is talent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can never get enough talent. And today, we've been doing that a lot by just a lot of engagement from kind of leadership, from myself down, networking, connecting with people. So if you're awesome, rockstar mobile, look me up, call me, find me anytime, day or night.
So specifically,
I'm there.
so your Home Depot, great, huge resources, right, for executive recruitment and recruitment underneath the executive level. I would imagine. What is your biggest challenge in terms of finding talent, right? And specifically.
Yeah, I mean,
is it in the marketing department? Is it in mobile, site building? Is it
across the board. So what I'd say is there's some uniqueness in mobile. So, if you look at product management, we're, a product-driven organization, more like tech, right? So we're in retail, but we really operate more like tech is one. So our product management, if you think about analytics and the mobile analytics space, if you think about mobile design, the UX, component of that as well is hard. I mean, really anything in the space, mobile marketing, really everything that you mentioned is just in such enormous demand that demand far exceeds, the supply. So how do you create a culture that's great, that's gonna, create a great career that, somebody can come in and contribute, and they believe there's gonna be a great opportunity for them to join your organization and make a huge contribution. That's one. Secondarily, what I'd say is what you see is that the rate and pace only continues to get faster. Of change, right? Yeah. Of change in mobile, right? Yeah. So there's all these new things coming out, and I mean we're a very large business that does have great resource and investment, but I mean even still we face how do you do, there's all this stuff. How do you figure out what works, what isn't working, and make sure you try to learn from other people in the industry, and of course when you ask, I mean, unfortunately a lot of times, everyone tells you everything that they did was successful. Yeah. And the reality is it's not. So you really have to get to some of let's talk about the metrics, or let's talk about the KPIs, or what your objective was there and how you measure that. And then you assess relative to where you think, do you believe that was really successful, right? And so that's something where, we're also doing a lot to test and learn. So how do you fail fast? How do you fail often? How do you learn from that feedback loop? How do you do test and target? How do you look at the analytics and mine the clickstream data to understand, what, may work, and how would you think about that, stuff like that?
So this session was in part supposed to address leadership, so we've covered a little bit about it. 375,000 associates on the floor, presumably now able to carry a tablet or phone, presumably involved in this texting back and forth between consumers looking for stuff, right? How do you keep everyone on the same page and trained appropriately?
Yeah, so that's been we rolled out.
We got a couple close to 2 minutes left.
So quick there is that we rolled out a huge number of what we call first phones. These are hardened industrial mobile devices that we put about 20 per store. So we have about 40,000 of these that we put in our associates' hands that can do everything from mobile point of sale. It has the mobile app on it. There's a lot of great capabilities, rich information right there for our great associates to be able to serve you in the aisle. So we rolled that out. That's just the technology piece. That's not the hardest element. Really, what it comes down to is how do you start to incorporate mobile in the DNA of the broader organization? How do you get mobile not just being thought by the mobile team, but really thought about by the whole company? So think about your training as you're looking at, we're onboarding all these new associates. I mean, in the springtime, we'll literally hire somewhere near 75,000 new associates to serve during springtime. So
wow.
imagine that just the size and scale of what that is, and how do you take all these associates and start to get them thinking mobile as well as something that we've thought a lot about and where there's a lot of power.
We've only got like 40 seconds left. We didn't touch mobile video, right? So you've introduced this text, which is great, right? Because you've got to text back and forth as a customer has a question, but you alluded to the fact that you're working on video. Can you give us a sense of, and you acquired Red Beacon, which is also a way for potentially people to get contractors. So I can see some stuff, pretty cool stuff on the future where, hey, you need some advice, maybe actually call someone to actually get tips on how to actually implement something, help figure out how to build something. Can you talk a little bit about where that's going?
Yeah, I mean, real quickly, so we've done mobile in blinds, and we've done mobile in kind of our kitchen design, mostly, on the desktop today. We're clearly looking at what are the technologies of the future to connect with our customers. Clearly, this whole text, picture chat, video, all these components are going to be great opportunities to serve our customers not only in the aisles but outside. And so, being out of time, I mean, it's a great opportunity.
When's the video coming?
Who knows? That's we're,
public company can't talk.
We're working through the technology elements that have to be brought to bear there. But a huge shout out to the mobile team, Matt Jones, who's my general manager of mobile, Casey, who leads our mobile app team, and Alicia, who leads mobile web. Just incredible folks, and a huge set of teams that support them in analytics, SEO, all the elements, marketing. Phenomenal team with some really incredible results.